What is up, everyone? Welcome to the 2021-22 DFS Army EPL. That's English Premier League if you're new or just getting into soccer this year. Season preview for the league. I am the head DFS soccer coach for the DFS Army. Head DFS. Yeah, I said that right. Too many DFSs in that. I'm the Daily Fantasy Sniper. With me, missing Trey J this week. Trey J, sick kid. That is the worst. So hope they get better soon. Hope he's doing well. I'm sure you'll all see Trey J this year in Discord talking. But we have Jay Nappy with us, who came on joined us last season, right? Beginning of last season.
Yep.
It enables us to do a lot more showdown. I get a break every once in a while, which is much appreciated. And quite honestly, great at club football. You guys in international, that's just not my scene. I don't like international competitions, mostly because there's just more of an edge in club play. I think so.
Yeah, it's a different beast for sure.
You guys crushed Euros, but we're here to talk about EPL. Are you excited for this season? A more normal season. It's the first thing I want to talk about. Saturday's the first slate. We have 5 games all at the same time, just like the good old days.
Yeah, it's glorious. I got so sick of those split slates toward the end of the last Premier League season. It was absolutely terrible. Never more than one game starting at a time. Sometimes have to wait for 3 different lock times on a slate. So this is going to be great. The first slate, 5 matches, all starting at the same time on Saturday morning. It's going to be awesome. I can't wait.
Actually, it's 3 p.m. kickoff. Our resident UK soccer guy. I can't wait. I just this, and then you get somebody. Whatever reason it was, James Maddison last year would keep. I'm like, he's going to play this week. He's 75% to play. It's a game they need, and he'd sit. I'm like, well, I guess I'm playing Iheanacho and leaving 2,500 on the table.
Or the worst is when Man City was the last game and they're massive favorites and you have no clue who their starting lineup is going to be because they have such a crazy rotation.
It doesn't get any. We're gonna do a team by team breakdown, so that's going to get no easier this year with Jack Grealish. He's probably going to play, but after that, I don't know.
Yeah, good luck figuring out who scores for City. They're going to score 4 goals, but you have that's the most bizarre thing, right? You can count on them to score 3 to 4 goals, and you have no clue where it's going to come from. Literally no clue.
We will talk about that. This, by the way, this podcast is open to everybody. So if you're not part of DFS Army, make sure you go to dfsarmy.com. Join us in Discord. Join us for all the great tools we have for all sports, not just soccer. Cheat sheets are the big one, especially for soccer. Don't have an optimizer for soccer yet, but most other sports, pretty much all other sports, it's in there. But we're in there right up until lock time between 9 and 10 Eastern time,
which will be much easier this season.
Yes.
One lock time per slate.
So people always ask us, well, we don't have a domination station. If you're in Discord between the hour before lock, which is when you have to be around for soccer anyway, I think it's even more important than for basketball. Basketball, you can kind of get lucky. Soccer, you better be there. Something's gonna happen. That's where the big edge is, and that's why I think we have the edge over the competition. I think we are probably one of the bigger and best soccer communities. So come join us. Ederson scores a break. Okay, you're drunk. What time is it in England? Go to bed. It's 2 a.m. And we got our boy Vince. Vince, this is not MMA, but you should make some money in soccer this year. Yes, it is me. All right. So what we're gonna do now that you've joined the DFS Army, if you haven't already, we're just gonna go team by team, talk about some of the transfer moves, what we expect from the teams in general. Some teams haven't done anything. We'll do a quick recap. We're not gonna sit and talk for an hour. It's not slate specific. The first slate is Saturday. We will have notes up for that. That's the first full slate. Jay Nappy's going to have notes for the showdown slate on Friday, which is the first game of the season. And I'm pumped, man. I cannot wait to begin. That being said, let's dig in to the first team. We're going to go alphabetical. By the way, if you're not familiar with Fantasy Football Scout.co.uk, which I think you can put in .com and it redirects there. I think they're a big enough site for that. This is where you should be going for really most of your information throughout the year. I find them to be pretty good about projected lineups, which can be difficult. I will give a shout out to RotoWire. They're up there as well. Those are the two I kind of look at. But the good thing about this is we're going to talk about set pieces. Actually, open this up in a new tab. We'll talk about set piece takers probably at the end. they're good about updating set piece takers, injury probabilities, all that kind of stuff. So this is my favorite site for leading up to slates. And when you're in slates or slates about to begin to check lineups, RotoWire, Flash Score, SofaScore. Those are the 3 apps you probably need. All right, here we go. Arsenal, man, where's Trey J for this? We're starting with his team, and overall, Arsenal, in my mind, they didn't get much better. They didn't really get worse, but by Arsenal standards, they're not going to be very good this year. I think they're going to be fighting for a top 6 spot. I think they're going to be fighting to be in Europa, kind of that 6 to 8 range. I think 4 or 5 is their absolute ceiling. If they crush it, maybe they'll compete for a Champions League spot, but it seems pretty unlikely. In terms of DFS, the real problem here, and I'm a little bit late to some of the news. I know the bigger ones, and so I'm just going to ask straight away: is Willian? No, Willian got moved. Is Willian still here?
I think he's still there, actually.
So that's kind of
it's tough for them to get away from his contract.
Yeah, that's kind of the issue here. Is and when you see these projected lineups, I should mention these are for week 1. They're not for the whole year because we're talking about it off air. Euros wrapped up, Olympics too for some guys. If the teams made deeper runs, they're not going to play week 1. So Willian is going to be a factor in this lineup, and the glaring omission is Boyaku Saka. I can't say his name. I'm just going to say Saka. The best DFS for DraftKings player on this team is probably Saka. And when he's not in, then it's Willian or Pepe, and you're going to kind of mix those in, and that's who you play on this team. Outside of that, the other person you're going to want to watch is Tierney, but he's tricky. That he's something we need to monitor throughout the season, because if they line up like this, 4-2-3-1, play him. But he can play in a back 3, and then his value goes way down because he's going to be priced at 5-6K. So those are kind of the things to watch for that I have for Arsenal. We didn't talk about format for this, by the way. I figure we'll just alternate who goes first for teams and kind of wrap up. Clearly, I went Arsenal first. Do you have anything to add for Trey J's team?
Yeah, unfortunately for Trey J and the Arsenal supporters, it was not a great season for them last year. They finished 8th. And so for those of you that are new to soccer or new to the Premier League, obviously you want to win the league, right? And then if you don't do that, you at least want to finish in the top 4, because those 4 teams the next season will get to play in the Champions League. The 2 teams after that finished 5th and 6th get to play in another European competition called the Europa League. So finishing in the top 6 is a high priority for Arsenal. Really finishing in top 4 is what they would want to do. But they had a disappointing season last year, finished 8th. They didn't really make any moves this offseason. I don't see their rank changing much. It just was kind of a slow offseason for them. And I think Saka is a really good kind of post-hype sleeper. Everyone was kind of excited about him last year, and he just didn't get a ton of playing time. He's still a really young kid. Had an unfortunate end to the Euros, missing a penalty kick for Arsenal. For England in the finals. But I'm going to look to be playing him as much as I can, probably. I don't think his price, especially early in the season, if he's starting, his price is not going to catch up to what I think his floor upside combo is. In this projected lineup, I think they're projecting Saka not to start, probably because he's still coming back from the Euros. Pepe is probably going to be the set piece taker when he's not there. And Willian just didn't really factor in for them at all. Like he didn't play many Premier League games at all. They signed him to a huge deal. It's just kind of confusing. I don't really know what to think with him, but
I would like to see, just looking at this here. I mean, I would almost like to see them run more like a almost a 4-3-3. Now that I'm looking at it, because then you can get you can play Pepe or Willian further. I'd probably play Willian up front. I'd go Willian, Lacazette, Aubameyang, and then that next line being Smith Rowe, Saka, and Jota in the middle, and I drop Lukanga out. And I think so. You get all your players in there. You get a little bit wider. I don't know. It just.
Yeah, I mean they struggled scoring goals last year, so it seems to me like doing something like that. But this is Arteta's system, also. Like he really likes this. But yeah, they're just too. They're 2 on their back heels. They seemed like last season. Didn't have enough attacking prowess to really scare anybody, and I don't really see much changing unless Arteta switches everything up, which I don't think he's going to get. I just don't think Lacazette's a great fit to be the a solo number 9 up top.
No, he needs help up there. If anybody, what's weird, if you're going to do that, it should be Aubameyang up there.
100%. And
but
he never played up there. Somebody else I'm really excited to watch though this year is Emil Smith-Rowe. They actually gave him the number 10 shirt, which doesn't always mean everything, but typically, your number 10 is going to be your best player. A lot of times they're a central attacking midfielder. And he's another young guy that I think has a lot of potential. And so I'm excited to see him. He's probably the person I'm most excited to watch on Arsenal this season, though.
Yeah, that's right. And we should mention Aubameyang was coming back from malaria. I remember that.
Yeah.
One of those things. I always forgot about that last year.
He scored like 20 goals, didn't he? I mean, he had an incredible season 2 seasons ago.
Yeah, but he came on late. He was weird. His floor went away last season. 2 years ago, he had kind of a floor ceiling, and last year it was ceiling.
He just wasn't taking a lot of shots. Yeah, he was not himself. So maybe the malaria is part of that. Maybe he can have more of a kind of a rebound season. All
right, you get to talk about what I think is. You get to start off with, I think, one of the more fun teams to talk about, because this is not the Aston Villa we remember from last season, but I'm kind of excited to see it. Go ahead.
I am too. So, one of the biggest moves was they shipped Jack Grealish last week.
For how much? For how much money?
Almost 100 million, wasn't it? Or over 100 million.
It's 100 million euro, yeah.
Yeah. Which he was their best player by far, but I think it actually could end up being a really good move for them long term. They already got Buendia in there, who was a star for Norwich last season, who is one of the clubs that got promoted from the Championship, who's now going to be Norwich will be playing in the Premier League this year. And so I anticipate he's going to be the one taking sets for them. He's going to be kind of a creative guy. He actually had 16 assists last season.
He did everything for Norwich. You don't know that's going to transfer to Aston Villa, which you got to worry about a little bit. But if it's anything the same like he was for Norwich and a better team, it could. I mean, his numbers could be scary.
Yeah, I agree. And somebody else that's kind of a young up-and-coming guy that I'm excited to see is Ollie Watkins. He had a good finish to the season last year. It'll be interesting to see him playing up top with Danny Ings, who they also just signed from Southampton.
Dirty Danny. That's Discord's favorite player.
So that will be a really interesting top line for them, because I really like Watkins. I think he has a lot of potential. I think he could build a lot on what he did last season. And their defense is really solid too. Like, I think even though they lost their best player, I think they actually could. I think they should be a top 10 team. I think they could contend for a Europa League spot because Emi Martinez and that back line are really, really, really solid. The good thing about Emi Martinez, especially for DFS purposes, is for some reason this defense just funnels simple saves to him, like just funnels them. He has probably 10 to 15 games where he'll have 3, 4, 5 assists or 3, 4, 5 saves, which that racks up those points. Even if he doesn't get a win and he's a cheap keeper, he can rack up a bunch of saves. So he's one of my favorites to play, whether they're favorites or not, because he kind of has a really safe save floor, and he's just a really good keeper too. So they're a really solid team. I'm excited to see kind of the new look Aston Villa.
Yeah, and there's somebody who had me a little bit excited at the end at the end of last year. Trezeguet kept popping up with all these like goals. He was kind of right spot, right time kind of guy. I know he's not in to start the season, but even off the bench, if somebody gets hurt or you're looking for a goal, change of formation, if they go to the 4-3-3, he showed he's good on that outside. He's going to be hard pressed for time, but El Ghazi fell out of favor. Even when he was scoring goals, El Ghazi fell out of favor pretty quick.
That was one of the most remarkable things about last season, is that there was a stretch where Grealish was hurt for probably, I think it was like 5 or 6 games, and El Ghazi started every game, and I'm pretty sure he had a goal in like 6 straight games, had a brace in 2 of them, was just absolutely going nuts. And then as soon as Grealish came back, he didn't see the field anymore. It was very bizarre. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what that mix looks like for them, just in terms of who's getting minutes between those guys, because they can both be exciting wingers. So this is going to be a lot of fun. This team's going to be a lot of fun to watch this year, even without Grealish. So,
the 2 teams, we had a lot to talk about. I suspect, and I know you're going to want to talk talk a lot here. There are going to be some teams we blow through, guys. Don't worry, it's not going to be a 2-hour podcast. Although it might be when we get going talking about this stuff. To me, I think me and Jay Nappy have differing opinions here. I think Brentford is on their way back down.
So they're one of the 3 new teams, right? This is their
yes,
first team that's been
promoted.
first.
If you're unfamiliar, I should say, if you're new, the way English soccer works, or most soccer leagues, honestly.
Besides
MLS. I wish we did it in more pro teams, because in more pro leagues. It's a great system. Yeah. Anyway, if you're unfamiliar, there are 20 teams who play in the league. The top 4 obviously get spots in the Champions League. People are fighting over that at the end of the year. But what's real interesting is that at the end of the season, the bottom 3 teams, if you finish 18th, 19th, or 20th, you are out of the league. You get sent down to what's called the Championship, which is really, in England, it's tier 2. So it is the second league of professional soccer. It's a big hit for money. It's a big hit for just a lot. Money's the big one for these teams. It's a big deal. And conversely, the teams that finish, the first and second place team get an automatic in Championship. If you're in tier 2 and you win it or finish second, you go to the Premier League next year. And 3 through 6 have a playoff system. And I believe Brentford got in via the playoff last year.
Yep, they did.
So this is our first one of those new teams. By the way, if you're curious about that and what a big deal it is, I talk about it every year, but it's my favorite soccer documentary series. It's called Sunderland Till I Die. It is on Netflix right now. There's 2 seasons of it. I love it. I've seen it. I've watched it twice now. And Sunderland was an EPL team that, quick side, they were in the Championship. They were in the Premier League. The series starts with them. They're back in the Championship. They're going to make it back this year. This is what happens, why it's a big deal, and rah. And they follow the whole season of them finishing last in the Championship too, and getting bounced out of that league to League One, which is the 3rd tier of English soccer. It's a great documentary.
Yeah, it is. And
they're still there, by the way. They're still there.
Yeah, they're still in League One, which is the 3rd tier. And I would say I watched it with my wife, actually, and she's not into soccer at all, but really enjoyed it also. It's just really interesting learning about something that's so foreign to us. Just with the way that they structure the leagues and stuff, it's a super good documentary. So yeah, Brentford advanced or got to get promoted because they won the playoff. But what's super interesting about Brentford is they have not been in the top tier of English football in about 80 years. They're also opening the Premier League season this year against Arsenal. So the team, 2 teams up that we already previewed on Friday. I'm going to have showdown notes for that. I'm excited for it. It's going to be a great game. Arsenal should be favored, but Brentford is actually basically run by a guy who's a Moneyball guy. He's basically, he came in, they were actually in tier 3 or tier 4 not too long ago, like 4 or 5 years ago, when he bought the team, took it over, revamped everything, and basically took a complete analytics approach to it, brought in guys that fit exactly what he wanted to do. And they didn't get promotion every single year since he took over, but I think it's 5 years ago. It's been a 5-year journey basically where they've come up 3 different leagues. And so I'm excited for them. I think they're actually going to be really good. They have a really exciting striker, Tony, and he actually last season finished the Championship as the top goal scorer, Ivan Toney. He had 32 goals, but he also had 10 assists, which is pretty rare for strikers like that to be able to still contribute with assists. You don't see many that do it, but guys like Harry Kane and Patrick Bamford last season had really good seasons like that as well, where they were racking up assists. So I don't expect Ivan Toney to score 32 goals in the Premier League. That would be absolutely insane. But I'm really excited about him and excited to watch this team. I think they have some interesting players. I'm not 100% sure who their set piece takers are going to be. Their main set piece taker last year is Matthias Jensen, but he played with Denmark into the semifinals of the Euros this year. So I think the reason he's not in this projected starting lineup for the first match is that I think he only recently rejoined the team after that deep run in the Euros. So besides that, it'll kind of remain to be seen. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but Buemo, he's another guy that could be a set piece taker if Jensen doesn't start.
That's my guess for early in the season is Mebo. Yeah. That's how I'm going to say it. By the way, Brentford was in the Championship in 2014.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's what I'm reading here because I know they had a little bit of a run, but
then didn't make it up to Premier League, right? This is their first.
yeah,
This is their first top
yes,
tier season in a long time, 80 years
yep.
or so. Yeah.
And they were in all kinds of financial trouble about 20 years ago. Like they were that.
Okay.
That's when it was a real rough scene. Okay, close this. I'm bouncing around here. Yeah, so my thoughts on Brentford in general. Teams like this, Tony agreed, best player, and Webos, who I think is going to be on set pieces. I kind of want to wait and see on them before I trust them too much. Otherwise, for the most part, talking DFS and GPPs, it's going to be kind of Tony or bust until I figure out more what they're going to be in the Premier League.
Yeah.
Brighton. All right, Brighton's interesting because Brighton is a team that I think could be good, like really good, if they would play the lineup I want them to play. Now, what the hell do I know? I'm not a coach, but this rotating Sally March and Pascal Gross and in and out and I kind of like Jahakenbach. I can't say his name. Jakenbach. I wish he would get a little bit more time too. I know Lana's this sexy Liverpool player. I don't think he's great for this team. He's fine, but Maupai is. I mean, he's what you get for number 9 at what they can afford. Like he's hit or miss. He's kind of a head case. He can score 2 goals. He can miss 3 point blank shots in a game. He's very frustrating like that. But he's a serviceable striker. He's fine.
And typically when they're underdogs, he's priced reasonably. So
he's like 5K.
He's a great GPP play because he can always pop off for a brace.
So what's interesting is when you're looking at set pieces, it kind of depends who starts. That's the problem with Brighton. You need to see who's in the lineup. It could be Sally March taking everything. If March and Gross are both in, they're probably going to split. But
Trossard can take some too if he's playing.
And Trossard, he's the third one. Of those players, Sally March is the best DFS play and the one you want to be starting by himself because he's most likely to score of those 3. Trossard at the end of last year, he's getting real overpriced. Like I don't want to pay $9,000 for Leandro Trossard. It was getting kind of gross.
Yeah.
So they're very much and Connolly usually he was priced like 4K for a lot of the season. He's kind of a GPP target there. Matchup wise, I like taking shots on Brighton. They're that team that can kind of sneak up. Defensively, they're good. You said earlier, Brighton is good on D. And I'm like, yeah, they're humongous. Adam Webster, Dan Burn, like they're just giants back there.
Yeah, they're huge dudes.
Dunk is big. And the other one.
They even had Dunk playing winger last year, too.
Yeah, it was
like a 6'4" dude just flying around. It's crazy.
Well, when this guy comes back, I think Tariq Lamptey is going to be a good player. And if he can start, the problem with him, and if I remember right, he was getting bounced between defender and midfield last year.
Yeah. Well, especially when they play this 3-4-3 or 3-4-1-2, he plays kind of over there where they have March right there, and because he's more of a winger, he's not really a defensive specialist, and I think one of the reasons he kind of fell out of favor is because he was having so much trouble on defense. But yeah, I think Brighton's actually kind of sneaky. They had a disappointing end of the season last year, and they finished, I believe, 16th. I think they were the last team not relegated. The 16th, and Burnley was the only team below them that didn't get relegated. But they didn't change much. They didn't lose any of their good players, which is for these smaller teams, I think is really important. We'll get to some other teams later on that are, smaller clubs. Yeah. They've had a lot of.
We got Ashley says, thinks Brighton gets relegated this year. They'll be towards the bottom probably just because I don't trust them. I think they can compete 14 to 16 and in that range.
I think they could sneak up
some teams that really
if they finish 12th, 11th, 10th, that wouldn't surprise me at all.
There are some teams that just I think didn't do a good job for whatever reason, couldn't do a good job money wise, and we're gonna get to one of them that I love to shit on every single week, and I'm gonna keep doing it.
So
they're next. Go ahead.
Brighton, they're not super exciting offensively. Hopefully, if they can get a consistent, lineup going forward where we get to start to trust some of their offensive pieces, they might actually become an even more solid team. But defensively, they're solid. I like Brighton in games where they're kind of bigger underdogs at home because they can be a sneaky, cheap, clean sheet. You see a lot of 0-0 draws with Brighton or eking out a 1-0 win. So that'll be interesting to watch, see if they can improve on last season with some of the same players that they've had.
Speaking of 0-0 draws, how in the world does Sean Dyche have this team competing mid-table every season, it seems like? Because Burnley on paper is just bad. Like, and
Yeah,
you look
yeah,
at that
Ash.
end,
I think Burnley is way more likely to be relegated than Brighton.
and it's
Honestly,
getting worse
yeah,
because now you got Wayne Hennessy at keeper.
yeah,
Uh-oh.
yeah.
Uh-oh. There how many games did oh god, the name's escaping me now. Nick Pope. How many games did Pope keep them in last
Oh
year?
my gosh,
A
so
lot.
many. Yep.
You're telling me Wayne
And he's a
Hennessy's
really
gonna do that?
he's a good keeper. Yeah,
Mm-mm.
and
And
Hensley's not going to do that.
no.
And it wasn't their back line that was keeping them in the games. It was literally Pope, like,
Yeah.
just making hero save after hero save. So Burnley's not very exciting to me. McNeil and Westwood probably are the ones that are splitting sets. It's super interesting. They kind of they flip flopped. Like at the beginning of the season, McNeil was taking all of them. Then all of a sudden, Westwood was taking all of them. Westwood plays more of a central defensive mid role, and then he will take some corners. So not very exciting for DFS. So if McNeil's not taking sets, his floor is crap, and he doesn't score many goals. He should. He's way more talented than than the numbers he's been putting up the last couple of seasons. So outside of random striker GPP dart throws with Rodriguez and Barnes and maybe Johan Berg Gudmundsson, Burnley's just not ever interesting to me.
The problem is
Gudmundsson
McNeil,
sometimes
who I
will come in at
freaking
like a 3K forward. I'll play him, but that's about it.
the problem is McNeil, because if they get a favorable matchup, that little whining, you want to get me on a tangent, ask me about Dwight McNeil in chat. He's just the worst. But he has a floor when he's priced at 6-7K. Like, he's their only good player at this point.
Yeah, especially if he is still mixing in on sets. There was a period last season where Westwood was literally taking every corner and most direct kicks too, and then his floor just eroded.
Yep.
But if he's mixing in, yeah, especially if he gets priced down some, as I anticipate he will, because I think Burnley's going to stink this year, then he's in play if he's taking some sets.
I can't wait to pick on Burnley betting. I can't wait. All right, Chelsea. This is going to be interesting. So Chelsea, they won the Champions League somehow.
Even though they don't have any goal scorers.
Nope. They got Timo Werner, who Timo Werner should be a great goal scorer. He was great at hitting posts and getting open last year. And it was starting.
Oh my gosh,
starting to come together. So Timo Werner's a guy that just watch. If he gets hot, he could put up a lot of goals.
Well, and they have three guys that are kind of post-hype sleepers that were big money transfers that came in last season. That they weren't terrible, but they didn't live up to the hype. But Hakim Ziyech, Kai Havertz, and Timo Werner are all young guys that, well, Ziyech not as much, but the other two are both really young. And the frustrating thing about Chelsea is similar to Man City, they just have such a rotation where you just don't know who's going to start. But they did just have a really big transfer with Romelu Lukaku coming in.
Bye bye Kai Havertz in this lineup.
He will not start at the beginning of the season probably. They just signed him over the last weekend, but he's the first. This is gonna be the first time that they have like a traditional striker in a long time, other than Olivier Giroud, who's just an old guy at this point. So I'm excited to see them. I think they could actually score some goals this year, whereas last season they just got by. I mean, they were just an auto clean sheet. Whoever they were playing, their defense was so solid. Mendy was incredible in goal when he came in midseason to relieve the hapless Kepa. So this will be an interesting team to watch. I'm just not sure that their rotation will ever be super solid because you've got 3 or 4 guys that are really good players that are not included in this, including US's Christian Pulisic. So
yeah, but he kind of flopped straight in for Werner, and you have for DFS specifically. Marcus Alonso is a guy who is going to be listed as a defender all year in this 3-4-2-1. He's always live. Aspilicueta, when he's back here, is a little bit rougher, but he overlaps a lot with.
Floor. Yeah,
he still has a decent floor, even though he's in the back of this 3-4-2-1. And for whatever reason, he pops up. He does defensive. He pops up offensively occasionally. He does defensive work. He's always between 3 3,000 and 3,600. And Golo Kante is the just always kind of, you can throw him in a lineup. He's just always, his floor is 3-4 points, and he can pop up with big games depending on the game spot, and he's always cheap. But it's worth watching just who these fullbacks are. Who's the other one? Who's playing?
So there'll be
on
two
the other
others.
side?
Reece James and Ben Chilwell will both play in those kind of outside winger roles where Alonso and Hudson-Odoi are on that graphic. And both of those guys are great forward plays and can't even mix in on sets. We saw last season, both of them were mixing in on sets. But so Reece James and Ben Chilwell and Mason Mount is another player who's not in this projected starting lineup, all made a deep run with England in the Euros. Where they lost in the final. So they probably won't start at the beginning of the season, but those are three key players to watch moving forward that are great.
There's so many names in this team. So you have to think Mason Mount is going to be probably the floor guy all season. Now that you said it, I can't believe we forgot about it. I forgot about it.
He was their main set piece maker.
Yeah, Ziyech not going to play most.
Yeah, Ziyech will probably take sets when Mount's not in there. He may split with Alonso, but then those fullbacks mix in on corners as well. So
yeah, Chilwell's got the problem is when Chilwell and James both play, Chilwell gets sets, but Reece James is going to be more aggressive. He's going to get up the field more often, and that
he has more open play value for sure. Yeah,
but
both of them are dynamic wingers, though. Both are really, really attacking minded.
When it's Chilwell Alonso, then Chilwell will get further forward in those type of games. So it's kind of, again, watching lineups, kind of understanding what these teams are going to do, and asking us in chat quite honestly. But Chelsea will be a good team to target.
A FanDuel specific play. Azpilicueta is a really good FanDuel defender because he's typically not as expensive as those wingers, but he still gets forward, like Sniper was saying, a lot. He overlaps with whoever that winger is, and then he racks up defensive statistics when he's in that back three. So on FanDuel, I love playing Azpilicueta if he's not too expensive.
All right, Crystal Palace. This team's in trouble. So
they got a new manager.
This is a team. This is my other team that I think so. Relegation wise, I think we had two. Started the season, I had to guess it's going to be two of the newly promoted teams and Crystal Palace. Like that's and it could be and Burnley right there. I really think Palace and Burnley are going to be fighting for 18. I don't like this team at all.
So I think they're okay, and I think with a new manager that might let them be a little more attacking minded and set Zaha free, kind of.
Yeah, so maybe Andrew just said it too. Zaha versus the world, like that's what it becomes. You have no Andrews. It's the loss. Yeah,
they lost Townsend, which is a big deal.
That's what makes me think this team's in a lot of trouble, especially when this right here. I don't know if you guys can see my up here. MacArthur, Rinwald, Schlupp. Oh no. You're they're in some trouble here. Kouyaté is fine at the back. I don't know a lot about this new player, Mark Guehi. I don't know how solid he will be in the Premier League. I know Kouyaté is fine. The reason I'm maybe a little bit hyperbole is this Crystal Palace middle three is concerning. DFS wise, it's Zaha or bust. Mateta is, you could play him in GPPs, and that's all I want. I never want to play Palace. In what situation, who do you want to play from Palace?
So the one thing I will say is I think with their new manager, they could be a little more attacking minded. So I think you might be able to have more GPP dart throws with guys like Jordan Ayew, Christian Benteke, and Matata up top. Zaha is always in play as a GPP play. But yeah, their midfielders leave a lot to be desired. Their fullbacks don't really get forward that much. So for DraftKings, typically they'll be cheap, but they just don't do much. So, for DFS purposes, unless it's a showdown and you have to play them, I'm typically going to be avoiding them altogether. We don't really know who their set piece taker is going to be because it was Townsend was their primary set piece taker and he's gone.
I think it'll be Zaha. I think. Or my guesses are it's going to be Zaha or one of the fullbacks, and I couldn't even tell you Ward or Mitchell.
Yeah,
but those are my guesses.
It's not looking good for Crystal Palace. So this is an example of, we were talking about it earlier. Some of the smaller clubs remain really consistent, have all their good players coming back. Crystal Palace is one of those that does not. So I think they could be fighting relegation, even though I think they will be more exciting to watch this season. And I think Zaha could maybe score more goals than he did last season. But they're going to be on relegation watch and kind of an avoid for DFS purposes.
I'm kind of curious here. Hang on, I'm pulling up the relegation betting odds. We're gonna go. We're gonna go on a quick detour here. Let's see. Relegation odds. And Man City's 2001 to be relegated. Huh? It's weird.
I wonder how many suckers bet that just because they hate Man City.
Yeah, I guess the most likely teams to be relegated according to the odds: Norwich, Watford, Brentford, which are the 3 promoted teams.
Yeah, those are the 3 new teams, which that makes sense.
That makes sense. After that, you wanted to call me crazy. Crystal Palace.
Yeah.
And then Burnley.
It's got to be Burnley. Yep.
So, and then you got Newcastle, Southampton. Southampton, I think, should be further down.
Oh, I'm low on Southampton too. When we get to them near the end, they're in trouble.
So yeah. So my take on Crystal Palace, not as hot as I thought it was. This is rough.
Yeah, and for DFS,
Everton,
mostly in a way.
Everton's interesting. I want to see what Andros Townsend is going to be.
Yeah. So
and Dominic Calvert-Lewin is
off season.
Yeah, Dominic Calvert-Lewin is your GPP guy every slate. He always pops off. Total boom or bust. So, I mean, it's pretty straightforward in terms of DFS. Pickford is a great goalie. Dominic Calvert-Lewin's a GPP play, and then you got to see what's going to happen with the value between Digne and Townsend. Digne was just play him every slate. He was going to take everything when Sigurdsson wasn't in, and then all of a sudden Sigurdsson started taking some stuff, and he wasn't as great of a value as he was.
Yeah, once Jaime Rodriguez got hurt, which happens every season, Gylfi Sigurdsson started coming in and playing more, and then Digne was just kind of meh. He was always super expensive. He would take a few corners, but wasn't doing anything special. So it'll be interesting to see if Rodriguez can stay healthy, what Townsend's role looks like if he's mixing in on corners. Because if Digne continues to be priced up and he doesn't have that floor, he's really just a GPP play to me, honestly.
Yep, agreed. Let's see. Next team up. I don't have to spend too much time on Everton. Leeds.
They're a mid-table team. They'll be fine.
We can talk about Leeds because this team was the team last year. The totals were insane because it was 4-3, 5-2, 7-0. Literally a 7-0 game. And every game was just full of goals. But you didn't really know where they were coming from. Rodrigo could score.
Yeah.
Matthias Click. All the guys in the front.
Outside of Bamford.
It's usually it's usually Bamford's the strongest GPP play, and Rafinha became the cash game play. He was the one on set pieces. He could score. He was the one you were slamming in. What's the other thing to look at from this team is where is Stuart Dallas going to line up? Because he's good, but he could play out here, sure. I would want to play a lot more Stuart Dallas if he would play here, but he was playing here and here and here. They were
So I think
3-2-4-1s and all kinds of crazy shit.
I think Dallas, he played all over the pitch last season. I think he's going to be playing more of that fullback role because Alioski is no longer with the team. Alioski went somewhere else, who was a lot of times would play fullback opposite of Luke Ayling, and then Dallas would start somewhere in the midfield, just all over the place.
So to wrap up my thoughts on this team, by the way, this is going to be pretty much Rafinha and cash, maybe Stuart Dallas if he's defender eligible, and then you can play anybody you want for GPPs, but you're going to want someone because this team's going to score a lot again. They're not going to change their style. Burnley is going to sit back for 38 games. This team is going to go forward for 38 games.
Yep, they're going to attack. And so last season they finished 9th in the Premier League, and it was they got promoted the year before that, correct?
Yep.
They were a promoted team that finished in the top half, which does not happen very often. And
hopefully they don't pull a Sheffield United on us.
I think they could push for a Europa League spot this season. Their team basically stayed intact. Really their only consistent starter was Alioski, who's a fullback, and Stuart Dallas can fill that role admirably. He is a fullback, more naturally, and they had him playing all over the place because he was just so good. A guy that I'm excited to watch is Rodrigo. I think he could be an interesting GPP play because if Dallas is playing in that fullback role, that leaves one of those attacking midfield spots open, which I think Rodrigo could take. And him and Bamford have been linking up in some friendlies, and it's been fun to watch. So another guy, Jack Harrison on the outside there, He's a really good GP play, had a really good goal total last season, and I think he can continue to improve as well. He's a young guy. So, yeah, this is a really fun team to watch. Rafinha is the cash guy, but then along with the fullbacks, Ailing and Dallas, but then any of those other guys are good GPP plays, and if they're priced down enough, can be viable in all formats as well.
Leicester City. Leicester City is, I mean, it's it's getting more crowded because of how well Yuri Tielemans played at the end of last year. But for the most part, and then you have to remember that Maddison was hurt, and how he was playing some of these games was wild. So usually it's going to be Maddison is one of the top cash game plays on the board. He's going to take pretty much every set. We knew at the end of last year he wasn't because he was hurt. I assume that'll be back this year, something to monitor if Tielemans gets a couple. But for the most part, it's Maddison is your cash game play. Depending on the slate, Ricardo and price, Ricardo Pereira is a decent fullback play. And then it's your GPP play. Top play is Vardy. He's, your boom or bust goal scorer. And then, I mean, I didn't really play a lot of Harvey Barnes, and I probably never will play a lot of Harvey Barnes unless I'm stacking Leicester because they're playing, somebody who's terrible. But for the most part, it's pretty straightforward. And to me, Wilfred and Ndidi is N'Golo Kante light. They're both kind of the same person. Kante's better, but just if you need that cheap midfielder, Wilfred Ndidi's a guy I punt to pretty frequently.
Yeah, a couple of guys. I really wish that Vardy would become kind of a part-time player. He's older, didn't have a great season last year, and he kind of got Leicester to where they are, to where they're competing for a Champions League spot every season. So I understand the loyalty to him, but they've got some.
He won a title. He won them a title.
Yeah, he absolutely did. But the reason I want that is because they've got some young guys that are potentially really, really good. And I'd be fine if they played two up top too, but
Who's the second one? Say his name. Yeah, there he is.
Nacho. I just call him Nacho. But then they also signed another guy, Patson Daka, this offseason, who is I believe he's a Belgian player. Or no, he's Zambian. But he's another exciting striker, number 9 guy that's kind of going to be an understudy for Vardy at the beginning of the season. So watch for that. If either of those guys is starting, especially if they're up top with Vardy, I think they could actually make really, really good GPP plays. We'll probably go under-owned. Iheanacho, I think he started – Vardy got hurt toward the end of last season. He started maybe 11 to 12 matches for them towards the end of the season, and he had like 10 goals. So he came on really, really strong, showed well. They played in the Charity Shield this past weekend against Man City, and Iheanacho did not start. The game was 0-0 when he came in. He drew a penalty, took the penalty, made it, and they won it. So he's a really dynamic striker. I hope that he gets more playing time because if he does, I'm going to love playing him in GPPs.
Excuse me. All right, well, Leicester City, we're going alphabetical. We're about to see a few really big names here, aren't we?
Yep.
Liverpool. All right, Liverpool. I mean, let's not go too crazy with some of the big teams other than the transfers because we all know these teams, Liverpool, Man City, Man United, they are the class of the Premier League. You can pretty much play them on every slate. Let's kind of just, it's we know, Trent Alexander-Arnold's top 4 play pretty much every slate because he's a vendor. Andrew Robertson, who's not starting initially, he's going to be great. He'll be on the other side here if you're not familiar. And then, you play these guys up front, mix them in, kind of who's hot, who's having the season. Last year, Jota was incredibly hot. Like it's we know what these teams are. One thing that I'll point out on top of, rather than beat this team too much, the biggest thing about this Liverpool lineup right here, Virgil Van Dyke is back because Liverpool was hurt constantly last season. They were
especially at center back. They lost 6 center backs.
Yeah, it was like Fabinho was playing center back. Like it was
Milner was too. James Milner was dropping back and playing center back sometimes.
It was wild. So, and I think one of the best center backs in the league is back. And it should
mean more clean sheet upside for them too. I think that's what it's going to mean. I think it's the main thing. So those guys like Trent Alexander-Arnold and Robbo that you're playing in cash because they have such strong floors and take all the corners. They have more clean sheet upside too when Van Dijk is in there. So What's interesting about this team, if you look at their center midfield, it kind of I'm joking a little bit, but it kind of reminds me of Crystal Palace's midfielders. Like they're just not really that special, especially for DK purposes. Like I kept wanting Thiago to be a thing last year, and he just never did anything. So for me,
is Ox still on this team? I don't know. Did Ox go anywhere?
he might. I think he's out on loan somewhere, but I'm not positive. I don't think he's going to factor in for them much. But for me, for DFS, it's the fullbacks, and it's the top line. I am really excited about Diego Jota this year. I think he's kind of a post type sleeper as well. He was everyone was excited about him last season, and he was good. Making the transition from Wolves, he was good. I think he's going to get even more consistent playing time this season, and could be a really strong play, especially because his price is not going to be up there with Salah. Salah, though, is going to be one of the top price players every time he's on the slate. He doesn't have the floor of some of the other guys, but he can score a hat trick in any game.
Yep, and he'll take penalties. Looks like Ashley said that Ox is being sold. They have Tiakumi. I can't say his name. I don't remember his first name. Starts with a T. It's like Tiakumi Minamino, but Minamino's a decent player that.
Yeah,
I'm surprised he's not getting time over Thiago the way Thiago played. But
I agree. We could see him mix in there, and we could see him mix in for Milner too. To be honest, I think Mane could have a resurgent season this year too. He kind of had a down year last year, but he's a phenomenal striker and attacker, and he can put up double-digit goals and double-digit assists. So.
All right, Man City. Here's the breakdown of Man City, guys. They're really, really good. They're probably going to win the league again. They're going to score tons. You have Grealish. It looks like he's going to start, which will be interesting. Ferran Torres.
Starting up top, which is kind of awesome.
Yeah. Ferran Torres, Riyad Mahrez. We're not listing Kevin De Bruyne, via Phil Foden. You have Raheem Sterling. Like it's an embarrassment of riches on this team.
They're stupid good.
So it's going to be, who the floor plays are. It's usually going to be Grealish or KDB. I want to see how those two work together. The other guys really will be GPP options. To me, the sneaky plays that seem to get left out from this team are Cancelo and Mendy, or the fullbacks. Whoever the fullbacks are, like Man City's going to have the ball. Everyone's going to attack. Cancelo started tucking in a little more than I wanted him to last year. Yeah. But, it's a cheaper part of the attack. And this whole team is just, it's stupid.
I typically don't play their fullbacks as much as others because Man City just doesn't attack as much from the outside. They tend to build from the middle a little bit more instead of whipping in crosses. And their fullbacks are always really expensive, but they're always great GP plays because, like Sniper said, they can score at any point also. That's the thing. Literally anybody on the field can score for them at any time. They're always live for multiple goals, even in the toughest matchups. So then they just add Grealish this year too. It's going to be interesting. One person that can start up top is Gabriel Jesus, and I could see him getting pushed out a little bit more. They just don't have a traditional number 9, I guess, with no Aguero getting shipped and Jesus just kind of not really doing much. So it'll be interesting to see.
I hate playing Jesus for in DFS. He's the worst.
Yeah, so I would much rather have a guy like Torres just up top that will have a little bit more of an attacking floor, just with shots and crosses and shots assisted and things like that. So they're a frustrating team to play in DFS, but they're going to score, so you just have to pick your
poison.
Yep.
Man, big thing here that's not listed: Jadon Sancho from Borussia Dortmund. He's coming over. He's going to be. God, I almost want to go crazy. I like Sancho a lot. He's borderline their best player. I know Bruno Fernandes, all the hype. He did everything from last year. I'm tempted to say Jadon Sancho is a better player, and that's going to cause issues. What's interesting is the same issue we have for Man City and for Liverpool. We didn't really have it for Man U. And now Jadon Sancho means we're probably going to have it in 3 spots, which is just phenomenal. Thanks, Jadon Sancho, because it's going to be a little bit of a learning curve of what's going to happen between Bruno and Jadon Sancho. Daniel James is going to lose some value. He probably is the guy who's going to drop out of this lineup, by the way.
Yeah.
You got Paul Pogba, who looked great during Euros. Watch Paul Pogba is going to show up. He seems to like playing for Ollie, but again, it's all stuff we have to see. And Greenwood is an incredibly good young player. So it's going to be almost an embarrassment of riches for Man U this year too. And we need to see how Bruno and Jaden shake out.
Yeah, and the other thing too that'll be interesting to watch is Shaw, who's a fullback for them, actually started taking more sets than Bruno did toward the end of the season last year. And then you add in Sancho, who took sets for Borussia Dortmund. He's a great player, so you want him on the ball. So it'll be. I think I might be lower on Bruno than others going into the season, just to see how that kind of shakes out a little bit. Now, if Sancho's not playing, it's tough to fade Bruno. But again, if Shaw's in there also, he kind of was like what we wanted Tellez to be last season. Remember that, Sniper? We wanted Tellez to come in and
if they would play him, he's exactly that.
I know.
Alex Tellez is better than Aaron Wan-Bissaka. Like,
for sure.
period,
Easily.
end of sentence, and I don't understand.
I don't get it, but Shaw ended up being that guy where he was a fullback, and it kind of became like a Trent Alexander-Arnold light, where he's a fullback that has clean sheet upside because their defense is so good, but he's also taking sets and has tons of assist upside and can even score a few times. So I think I'm going to be lower on Bruno to start the season just to see how that shakes out with Sancho. I'm going to be higher on Shaw. And yeah, Greenwood will be a fun GPP play to watch this season. I think Martial might be kind of on the way out. I would kind of like to see them move to what Man City's doing and not really have a traditional number 9 and just kind of rotate all these guys in as false 9s. But we'll see if that happens. I don't know that it actually will.
You know who else I think could be? I mean, not should be. It's tough. I was saying it last year. Man U has, in my opinion, by far the best second string goalie in the league. Like, he's a starter for probably 80% of the teams. I'm really high on Dean Henderson.
Yeah.
He basically put Sheffield on his back and took him almost into Europa 2 years ago. Sheffield's back down in the championship, if you don't know. Like, he is really, really good. And I kept thinking there was a period about when he was playing well for Sheffield. De Gea was kind of sucking it up for Man U. And I'm thinking, all right, is Henderson going to overtake this guy? Are we about to see this? And De Gea got his shit together, and he's the more experienced starter. But if De Gea gets hurt, I'm not too concerned. If De Gea doesn't play well, I think he could lose his spot. I'm really high on Dean Henderson. I need Ashley to chime in. What does England and Manchester, I know you're a Newcastle guy, think of Dean Henderson? Am I crazy being this high on him? Because, I mean, what's De Gea's contract at this point? It's got to be dumb.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It is.
I just.
And De Gea's a good keeper. He just kind of has an error. He's just kind of prone to just freak errors and accidents and just bizarre goals that he lets past him. But yeah, Man U will be a team that we'll be targeting a lot in DFS. Bruno, Shaw, Jadon Sancho, and then any of those attackers are all really, really, really good.
De Gea is better than Kepa. I'm pretty sure Trey J is better than Kepa. Anyway, all right, Newcastle. Our boy Ashley, he's the one dropping the most comments here. We got to talk about his team, which odds say are going to be fighting for relegation, and I disagree with those odds. Actually, I kind of like Newcastle. Mostly, I mean, Callum Wilson is just the way it starts up front with them. Callum Wilson came on last year, played great, I think is a quality player, and St. Maximin is like, that guy is good. You mix that in with guys like Richie and Fraser, who are starting to learn how to play together last year. It's the problem. It's a lot of guys you need on the ball. That's the only issue you have here, because St. Maximin is fancy off the ball. I think he needs a little bit more seasoning, learn how to play without it, not be as erratic. And Fraser,
if he could just stay healthy too, he could be a nurse for them. I mean, he just battled injuries a lot last season, and he's kind of another post-hype sleeper guy that people were really excited about last season. He just didn't pan out because of injury. So,
the last one was Joe Willock is gonna be added here. So they have a lot to look forward to. What I am worried about though, and maybe I'm missing something. Is Dubravka just hurt, or what's
so
his?
Dub is hurt, and then Darlow is recovering from COVID, I believe, and so they're
So early in the season,
starting the season with their third string keeper. Yeah. So they may have some tough results.
Get Kepa.
But it'll get better. I mean, once either one of those guys come back, both Dubravka and Darlow are solid keepers.
I mean, I think you're a homer here, but I mean, Darlow and Dub are going to struggle to get back in. Dubravka is good, so I think Dub will get his spot back.
So for DFS purposes, if Frazier or Richie is ever starting by themselves, they probably will take all of the sets. So
they're not playing Man U, Man City, Liverpool. Just slam them in.
Slam them in. If they're playing together, we need to see if they're going to split 50-50, but they should be cheap enough where they could be viable anyways. I like Richie better because he has just more attacking upside. Frazier just plays more of a holding role, but if Richie is not playing and Frazier is the only set piece taker in, he's a great play. He'll never be too expensive unless he just starts going nuts, but he'll never be too expensive where he takes himself out of play for that reason.
Norwich, another one of the newly promoted teams, although we just saw them 2 years ago. Like they are back after a quick stint.
They're yo-yoing a little bit.
There's no Emiliano Buendia, who we saw earlier, and his new team. He's the guy you wanted to slam in. The problem is they have a really good team for the championship. I'm not loving this lineup here. We're looking set pieces. I think it'll be Cantwell, and Pookie's their main GPP guy. I want to play Max Aarons outside, but I don't think they're going to be very good. So it's one of those. I'm pretty down on Norwich to start the year, and until they change my mind, I won't be playing a lot of them for DFS.
What would be really fun? So recently, a young U.S. international, Josh Sargent, signed with them. He's a striker, so it'd be fun to see him and Pookie playing up top together. If that were the case, Sargent will probably be very, very, very cheap, and he's a U.S. international, which will be fun to watch in the Premier League. So I'm excited to see him. He's a young kid. He probably will be brought on very slowly, but he's somebody to watch later in the season in GPPs because he can pop, and he's an exciting player.
It's going to take at least 2 weeks for us to find out what Norwich is doing because they get to play Liverpool week 1. So just
ignore them week 1 for sure.
Give up 3 or less. If they lose 3-0, just go to the next one. That's bad to say, but
losing 3-0 is a good result in that first one, I think. Ooh, now here's a team that I can't wait to talk about.
They're in this, and I'll let you take the lion's share of this one. This is another team that is in a lot of trouble. No Dirty Danny. I get hammered on this one in chat, but the way they set up for a while, Nathan Redmond was always a floor viable 5-6K forward, just always was. If they line up like this, Tella was even cheaper. Shea Adams is by itself. Theo Walcott, I think, had the season of his life last year. I don't think he's that good of a player, quite honestly.
And if James Ward-Prowse stays injured, like he's injured and He's by far their most dynamic player now that Danny Ings is gone. So Danny Ings was a striker for them, has been for a long time, and he's probably a top, 4 or 5 pure striker, pure finisher in the Premier League, and now he moves to Villa. So Shea Adams was supposed to be, kind of a protege last year, and he just didn't do a ton. He's going to have an opportunity now with no Danny Ings to show who he is.
Or start scoring.
Yeah, I don't see how this team gets wins. I don't see how this team gets clean sheets. Their keeper situation is a mess. They kept going back and forth between Forster and McCarthy last season. I think that it could happen again. I just
who's
don't
the best
see
player?
it.
We know who the best player is. James Ward-Prowse. Who do you think their second best player is GPP wise? I don't think it's Shea Adams.
You could say it's Tella, I guess. I don't know.
Nope, I'm not going there either. I'm not going to go Redmond. Stuart Armstrong's the one who pops up, and he has kind of that nose for the goal. He's a smart player. He's probably a better player than he is DFS player. But Southampton's going to need guys who could flat out play. And
if Ward-Prowse does miss time, Armstrong is probably the person on sets also. So
who knows? It could be Redmond. It could be Walker Peters.
Yeah,
I'm hoping it's Walker Peters because, quite frankly, I think a fullback who can take sets.
Yeah, that would be nice. But who knows?
This is another team to kind of look out for. This team is one of the messes we'll be looking to pick on.
Of the teams that are not newly promoted, teams that were in the Premier League last season, I think Southampton and Burnley have the best chance to get relegated. And
Crystal Palace. Crystal
Palace too. But Southampton is not exciting to me at all, even in their attack. Those other two teams, you can find guys to play in GPPs, guys that can score goals. I just
Wolves
don't
are rough
see
too, by the way. They're going to be last, but Wolves are pretty rough.
Yeah.
I'm trying to look. Like there's a legitimate chance that I don't like Brentford as near as much as you do. We'll talk about Watford. They're obviously coming up. There's a chance that all 3 promoted teams stay up because I think some of the standard the teams from last year that were towards the bottom really fell apart. Like, are you going to be stunned if you're telling me Crystal Palace, Burnley, Southampton, they go down? Anybody going to be stunned?
No,
I don't think so.
Be.
But I mean, when's the last time 3 promoted teams stayed up? God, I'm going to Google that while you're talking about the next one but it's possible this year.
Yeah, has that ever happened? I don't know.
All right, Tottenham. Don't worry, Harry Kane is probably going to resign here. This is a bit of a gross looking chart, but Harry Kane should be back. The problem is, you know what this team's problem is? We all know what this team's problem is. It's Jose Mourinho.
Well, not anymore.
That's right. That's what it was last year, I should say. That's what was this team's problem.
That's why I think they could have some more upside this season, is they don't have to deal with literally the worst manager in the entire world.
I meant to say was, and that's where my issue here is, though, at least early in the year. What the hell is this team? I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know what this new manager is going to do. I don't are we going to see,
we might start seeing some of the old,
Ali's,
Dele Ali coming back, Lucas Moura, get some more playing.
How are you going to get Son, Bergwijn, Moura? Who's dropping back into the second level here? You can't play Moura, Son, Bergwijn, and Kane all, in the first level. None of them really scream like guys who could handle, are going to play good in this second level, like a Højbjerg and Skip. Reguilón is the one that I think could see the biggest jump from last year to this year if they play, depending on the style that they play. Again, we don't.
Yeah, they could have a formation change too. They likely will have a formation change. They're going to play stylistically a lot different. Jose likes to sit back and counterattack. I don't think they're going to do that. I think they may press a little bit more under this new manager. But for DFS, Harry Kane is a great play. I think last season he just kind of had a freak year where he had double-digit assists. I mean, he was close to leading the league in assists and also scored a ton of goals. So I don't think that's going to happen again, but he actually ends up having a good floor because of how well he distributes. He also is not a traditional number 9 in the sense that he doesn't just stay up top. Steve Bruce worse than Jose? Yeah, maybe so.
Playing the whole choke.
So I'm excited that Kane is staying here. Honestly, I think it's better for the league, and I think it's obviously better for Tottenham. It makes me more excited to watch them. Heung-min Son is just a great player. Also, he's an awesome DFS play. He will take some sets. He always scores a lot of goals and mixes in on assists as well. So he's a great player. I'm excited to see guys like Dele Alli come back. I think they could have more of an impact and will be fun to play in DFS. Could be good GPP plays because they're not just going to sit back or just completely not start. Like Jose just hated him for some reason, but I've always thought he was really good. So
Jose hates somebody for no reason. Like he ruined Pogba. He totally ruined Pogba.
Oh yeah, yeah.
All right. So we need to see what this team's going to do, but I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, to start the season, though, you want to play the same guys, Kane and Son. Those are their main guys that you want to play in DFS.
All right, another newly promoted team. That it's interesting. They have some decent pieces. Like I like their front line. Ismail Sarr is a really interesting floor play. A lot of open play value there. Troy Deeney is a GPP striker, boomer bust type, but he's a pretty decent scorer. He's a streaky guy. He's very hot and cold. And Ken Sema, it provides a little bit on the outside that I like. And you got Tom Cleverley, who is going to, I think, take set pieces on this team at a relatively decent price. Yeah, it's one of those. They're not great everywhere. This team will be a bottom half team for sure, probably bottom quarter. They'll be fighting. For me, it's this team stays up or goes down based on the performance of Sarr, because he is good enough. I think he has the potential to be good enough to keep them up single-handedly. He's a really talented guy. If he doesn't have a good year, doesn't develop, they probably go down. This is the team we're going to pick on this year because defensively they don't look – that's my big worry is I think they're okay up front. I'm worried about them defensively where they're going to be chasing too many games.
So the interesting thing about them is I was trying to look up the exact number. They had quite a few clean sheets last year, and I'll just be interested to see if that translates at all. My guess is that's how they try to stay up, is by packing it in, trying to pile up clean sheets, and just keep people from scoring. Because, like we have talked about, their
Like Burnley,
their
no,
top
fuck
line
this
is
team.
what's that?
Like Burnley, fuck this team.
Yeah, I mean, they're. I just don't see them scoring a lot of goals. So I think the way that they stay up is, yeah, they'll have some timely goals from guys like Sarr and Deeney, but I think they're going to need to keep some clean sheets too. So for DFS purposes, it's mostly going to be an avoid. Maybe you could play some of their fullbacks in value spots, but I'm not excited about Cleverly as a set piece taker. I'm not really that excited about Sarr unless in really juicy matchups at home. So yeah, they're not that exciting to me from a DFS perspective.
Yeah, I do like Sarr. I think he has some potential, but we'll have to see. It's not somebody I'm going to out of the gate target.
I mean, it's kind of like a Crystal
Especially
Palace
week one,
situation.
they get Aston Villa, which no thanks.
Yeah,
No
and
thank you.
it's kind of like a Crystal Palace situation where it's Sarr against the world. Like Sarr's kind of on an island by himself with Tom Cleverly, but I don't know if you want to be on an island with him.
No. All right. West Ham. I don't dislike him as a person. I really don't. Tomas Swisek, get the fuck out of this league because I can't get you right. He does nothing except score from set pieces. He's a consistent 14-point guy. It's so frustrating.
Yeah, he'll just get goals from corner kicks just out of nowhere.
And when I play him, he puts up the 2 points. When I play him, he puts up the 2 points I knew he was going to put up. My God, great. This team,
and that's the thing too. He's a midfielder, so he doesn't even have like clean sheet. It's not even like you're playing a center back that could get forward on set pieces, right? Like he literally does nothing for DFS purposes except for the random time he scores corner kicks. So if people are going to play him this season, I will be happy to fade and just watch him score 10 goals again.
So what's interesting to me about this team is these are the team that we want to target the fullbacks, Cresswell, Kufal. Cresswell put up a lot of points last year. And it really kind of took away from Jared Bowen, who typically is a guy who had a decent floor, and Cresswell kind of hurt it.
He started mixing in on corners, and that was a big reason why. It really hurt Jared Bowen's floor when he did that.
It's going to continue. I think Bowen's going to take a step down. Antonio's your GPP guy, boomer bust, talented player. I think Antonio is a guy who can get very hot. To me, what could change with this team from last year, the only thing to look at is how much run they're going to give Saeed Benrahma. Because he would play really well for 50 to 60 minutes and go off, and you're like, what the hell is happening? And that's when Cresswell would get there and Bowen would get there if he was going to get there. If Benrahma starts playing 90, I think he's the best DFS play on this team. And it's going to be, we have to watch, because if Benrahma is going to stay, on this left side, is Cresswell going to overlap? Is Cresswell just going to take sets? Like Benrahma is a good player. I think should get more time. How these two work together is going to determine where I want to go for DFS. As of right now, day one, Cresswell is your top DFS play on the team, and then Antonio is your GPP guy.
And Soufal is a good cash play as well. He's typically a little bit less expensive than Cresswell, and he gets forward just as much. He doesn't have the same set piece floor, but in GPPs, he's a good safe play. I like playing him in cash as well. So it's interesting that a couple of my favorite plays on the team DFS wise are their fullbacks.
All right, let's go. Well, I think this is our last team. We got Wolves. We got a team that Raul Jimenez is back, by the way. You have to love to see that. He's the one who had that brutal injury last year, literally fractured skull. That was gnarly. I remember whatever it was. I was watching that game, and not a ton of people in Discord were. I remember typing going, "You need to turn on the TV. What just happened?" Because he's still down.
Yeah,
that was rough. So,
and I think we're going to see him with a Petr Cech kind of padded helmet, at least to start the season, which he needs.
It was bad.
Yeah,
so what are your thoughts on? And we got no Patricio. You may notice. I think Jose Sa is probably just as good. He might even be a touch better. Quite honestly, they might have upgraded keeper. I like Sa, but it's going to be how good are Traore and Trincao. The big signing for them is Trincao.
Yeah, he'll be interesting to watch, and I'm excited to see Jimenez back. The only thing that scares me for DFS purposes is a lot of times when guys have brutal injuries like that, you see him kind of gun shy, at least to start. So I will probably not have a lot of him to start the season. Your floor guys, though, Moutinho is going to be the best one, especially if this is the lineup that they run out there. He will be the set piece guy. But I think they're going to be struggling with relegation, honestly. I don't know. The other thing, too, is Pedro Neto he's still currently with Wolves, but there's rumors that he may go sign elsewhere. He kind of became their –
That's the one, yeah. But that's why they got Trincao, because you think Neto's
right.
on the way out.
Yeah, he became one of their best players last season and was a good DFS play most of the time too, because he would be on sets and had some good goal scoring upside. So if he's not in there and Moutinho's taking sets, Moutinho's a good cash play. He just doesn't have a ton of upside, especially with Jimenez back. There may be a little more assist upside for him, but I don't know. It's tough for me to get super excited about this team with a new manager, losing one of their best players, and getting a striker back, but one who might be a little timid because he had a catastrophic skull injury the season before. I don't know. They're kind of a wait and see team for me. I'm not going to be heavy on them to start the season, I don't think.
And Ruben Neves takes direct sets and he pops up with random goals.
Yeah.
That's the team by team breakdown. I did want to look at the set pieces here. We're going to kind of ignore penalties and more, corners, directs, this third column here. I'm interested to see what they have projected here. I haven't looked at this. I was focusing more on transfer stuff. Willian, Saka, Pepe, more that's kind of lens Saka's going to be the guy here.
Well, and I don't see Willian playing that much.
Right.
So if he's in there, sure, but it's going to be Saka and Pepe for the most part.
That'll be right here, Jensen and Webo. We'll see. I don't know if I agree with this. This is going to be weird. Is El Ghazi really going to be on sets?
He did take some last year when Grealish was out, but Traore did too. Those two would be my top best bets. I would think Traore takes more though.
They didn't list Solly March here. That's upsetting. It's because Brighton's a mess with set pieces.
Brighton
Mount,
is
James. Yeah, I mean, this is Mason Mount territory. I can't believe we went over him at the beginning. Oh yeah, we didn't talk about. I kind of think Jose is a little bit overrated. Like quite honestly.
Well, yeah. So both of those guys are not projected to start the season for them,
Right.
Eze and Millie. I don't know why. Eze might be hurt. I'm not sure about Millie, but yeah, I mean those two being your set piece takers is another reason why Crystal Palace is gross.
We need to watch this. If this stays anywhere near close, and Dallas is going to take set pieces early on for Leeds, like
it'd be sick, especially if he's
feel right.
So I know for FPL, he's actually categorized as a midfielder this year, ironically, even though he will probably be moving back to more of a fullback role. I can't imagine Rafinha getting taken that job getting taken from him because he did so well with it last season. So it's something to watch for sure, but I'd be surprised.
I think this is just some hesitancy based on last year. It should be Madison. I would think
it's all
based on last year.
Yeah.
We know this team. They're always a mess. It'll probably. I mean, where's Grealish going to fit in here? It's probably going to be KDB.
He's not going to be making it on set. No, I would be too. KDB's going to. But, I mean, maybe he takes a couple directs. That wouldn't shock me. I don't know. It'll be really interesting with Sancho coming into Man U and with Grealish coming into City. It'll be interesting to see if KDB at City and Bruno at Man U are the same, have the same floor that they did previously with somebody else that's that good coming in and mixing in on, stuff that they used to just rack up the DFS points. So,
yeah. And then we talked about the Shaw Bruno. We talked about Richie and Frazier.
Ward-Prowse is the only one.
Yeah, the only one listed. Yeah, he's not going to play week 1. So, little help. Little help.
Southampton.
Norwich, interesting. Howell.
And none of those guys were in the projected starting lineup. So who knows with Norwich? Probably. Who knows?
I buy cleverly. I buy that. Yeah, the rest is pretty. Son, we kind of know that, but I want to. The problem here, Son could get a lot more sets because we don't really know how Tottenham's going to play this year. The style they played last year under
Yeah.
Jose Mourinho, they didn't get a lot of sets. They might draw more this year.
Right. Yeah.
Not
absolutely.
entirely sure.
I think Dele Alli could mix in too if he ends up playing more. So yeah, that'll be one to watch.
Scroll here. Oh, penalties. This column right here is penalties, guys. Now we're just kind of we're clear at the very end. This kills you once a season. Mark Noble penalty will pop up for whatever random reason and get you once or twice a season. It's just.
And there's nothing you can do about it because you're
Nope.
not playing him.
No,
just don't.
But it happens. Pookie, Callum, Bruno. Oh yeah, we forgot about Rashford. That Man U team is an embarrassment of riches with Jadon Sancho coming.
Yeah, it is. I think Bruno's still the primary pin taker, but yeah.
I'd be surprised if Salah doesn't rip the ball away from Milner. I know Milner's the captain, but I don't buy this.
Salah took him most, if not all, of last season when he was in. So
and you got Firmino. That's right. Firmino's not. God, the top three teams are just stacked.
Yeah,
absolutely stacked.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nothing much else that interesting. Nacho.
Jorginho's not going to play a lot this year. He's not going to get in the lineup.
No, I don't think he is. Nacho for Leicester took the penalty in the Charity Shield this past weekend. He drew the penalty, but Vardy was out. So I really think if Nacho is starting, I don't think he's going to take it over Vardy, but he's going to be a great GPP play and win some people some weeks, I think.
Jamie Vardy's a scrappy motherfucker. Like he'll take the ball physically. Like,
no doubt.
It'll get aggressive out there. All right, that's the DFS Army EPL season preview. A little bit of wait and see. Let's wrap it up with something fun. I mean, we kind of talked about relegation, but let's go top 4 spots. Who's getting the top 4 spots and who's getting relegated? Pull up a list of teams here.
Top 4 is tough. I mean, the chalk. The favorites to be top 4 are probably Man City, Man U, Liverpool, and Chelsea. If somebody was going to get in, that would be a surprise for me. I think it's actually Leeds.
Wow.
I think their back line and defense came on toward the end of the season, and we know they can score goals. So I'll be interested in they're a cohesive team. They didn't lose anybody, and actually guys coming on that kind of came in late last season. So if there's going to be a surprise team, that's my surprise team. Relegated, I think I'm going to go Southampton, Burnley, and Norwich.
Yeah, if I had to go, I mean, same. It's hard to not pick. I mean, Man City, Man U, Liverpool. I mean, I want to do something crazy, but Chelsea. I mean, the Chelsea European champions. You can tell me they're not going to make top 4, but
and they're getting Lukaku. Like if I had to pick somebody that was kind of a surprise team to win the league, I think it would be Chelsea.
Yeah, but I want to do something crazy, so I'm not going to include them here. I want to go crazy, and if I had to go crazy, probably Aston Villa.
Oh baby, I think Aston Villa set themselves up with that Grealish deal.
I love Danny Ings, El Ghazi, Trezeguet.
Oh man, they're going to be so fun to watch this season. They're going to be one of my favorite teams to watch for sure. And I'm one of the other newly promoted teams. I'm going to be pulling for Brentford the most, just because I love the analytics guys. Give me the analytics. I want to see the numbers guys stay up and get a crack to improve and stay in the Premier League for longer.
My relegated 3 is probably going to be definitely Burnley, because screw them. Burnley, Southampton. God, do I want to? Palace is so bad. You know what? No, I'm not going to say Southampton. I think James Ward-Prowse could single-handedly carry them to enough points to get them. So we're going to go.
He's going to have to score all the goals this season too.
Yeah,
then
we're going to go Burnley, Palace, and Watford.
Love it.
I wanted to say Brentford, but Watford. When the more I look at it, is Matthias Jensen really going to, as much as I like him, is he really going to be able to carry Tom Cleverley? Like Troy Deeney's old at this. How old is Troy Deeney?
34.
I feel like he's 50.
33.
88. Shit. He's younger than me. Fuck you. God damn, I'm old. All right, that's what we got for the season breakdown. Any questions, hit us in Discord. If you're not a DFS Army member, you should probably fix that. Go to dfsarmy.com. Free code. Nappy, what's your free code? Your 10% off code.
Jay Nappy, I believe.
Jay Nappy. Put that in. If you're not a member, get 10% off. Guys who are members, Ashley, I know you're here still, but anybody else who's made it all the way through, excited for this season. Any questions, hit me up. I'm going to this season record a new scoring intro video. It's like most viewed video on YouTube, but it's outdated at this point, sadly. So we'll go over some more strategy there. I'll do that early part of the season, but any questions, hit any one of us up. It is 2:22 in England. Ashley, go to bed. The rest of you, good luck this season. I'll see you next time.